The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise today and speak to Bill 5, the Public Sector Compensation Transparency Act. Bill 5 significantly expands Alberta's existing public sector compensation disclosure. It is encouraging to see that many members voiced their overall support for the initiative during first and second reading. I will be introducing a government amendment and at the conclusion of my speech, and I look forward to and anticipate amendments being brought forward by the opposition parties as well. These bodies will have to disclose the names and compensation of employees who earn more than $125,000 in compensation, including overtime, severance, and bonuses. The threshold is intended to focus disclosure on higher income earners and managers rather than frontline staff. There will be no threshold for board members in the entities covered by the bill. As members have mentioned, these positions have sometimes been criticized or perceived as being patronage appointments, and we have also considered the vast majority of board members do not receive a salary. Instead, they often receive per diem rates for meetings. Therefore, if this bill is passed, all compensation paid to board members of these agencies, boards and commissions covered under the Act will be required to be disclosed. Requiring the disclosure of compensation paid to these positions is in keeping with the principles of open government. Payment to Alberta's physicians and health practitioners total in billions of dollars a year. As a result, requiring the disclosure of compensation paid to physicians and other medical professionals also contributes significantly to our goal of informing the public on how their tax dollars are spent. Several physicians raised concerns, as have members of this House, that disclosure of fee-for-service payments would not reflect the actual take-home income of physicians and other medical professionals because of the way the offices are run. We recognize that physician compensation is complex, and we understand that unique rules will need to apply to the health sector group. These rules will be developed in consultation with Alberta Health Services and other health entities, physicians, and groups like the Alberta Medical Association. And other medical practitioners, as well as other stakeholder groups. We will take the time necessary to ensure the regulations are comprehensive, that they accomplish what we're setting out to do, and that stakeholders' concerns are heard. In addition, Madam Speaker, the bill enables municipalities and school boards to disclose the names and compensation paid to employees if they wish to do so. Teachers, as well as several honourable members, have expressed concern with the bill and its effects on school boards and teachers. Specifically, concerns have been raised about the lack of an imposed threshold by government that mirrors the rest of the public sector. It's important to emphasize that this bill did not mandate disclosure of a single teacher or municipal employee in its present form. Municipalities and school boards are governed by individuals that are elected by the public, and we wanted to respect their autonomy. However, having heard from stakeholders, our government has been working, and I am pleased to say we have worked with all of the opposition parties, including the Wildrose, the Alberta Party, the Progressive Conservatives, and the Alberta Liberal Party. And while we may not all agree on all issues, we're working together to improve transparency here in Alberta. So, I'd like to introduce an amendment to address concerns raised by the offices of the legislature, and I have what I believe to be the correct number of copies. Shall I wait while it's distributed, or continue? Okay.
This will be known as Amendment A1.
Oh, I probably don't actually give them all away.
Please continue, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Legislative Assembly offices raised concerns that given their oversight role, reporting or being subject to an audit by the Minister could interfere with that mandate. We fully respect and are committed to ensuring the integrity and independence of the legislative offices. This office also affirmed their commitment to the principles of transparency in public service, including transparency in the legislative offices. Legislative offices will still be required to publicly disclose compensation information in a manner consistent with other public sector bodies, subject to this amendment. The amendment adds subsection 5 to section 6 of the Act, which exempts legislative offices from the requirement to disclose or advise the minister of their disclosure. Public sector bodies, which the offices are considered under the Act, are required to make this disclosure both publicly and to the minister. Again, the office will still be required to publicly disclose. They simply will not have to report that disclosure to the minister responsible for the Act. The subsection also removes the responsible minister's compliance and auditing powers. Instead, the amendment provides auditing powers over the offices of the auditor, over to the offices of the Auditor General through a new section 9.1. The Auditor General will have the discretion to conduct an audit where the Auditor General considers it appropriate. In regard to auditing the Auditor General's compliance with the Act, the amendment provides the Standing Committee on Legislative Offices the authority to appoint an auditor. This is consistent with the auditing scheme contained in the current Auditor General's Act. Finally, under the amendment, offices are required to cooperate fully with an audit. The results of the audit will be presented to the Standing Committee on Legislative Offices, or in one case, the Member Services Committee, and the committee can make the audit results, or to the Auditor General in another. With this amendment, Bill 5 is consistent with the existing oversight structure for legislative offices. Any possible perception of lack of independence from government is avoided. Importantly, the requirement to publicly disclose is maintained. I urge all members to support the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.